Wait, hold on. Y'all are not ready for what just leaked out of that Harlem brownstone. ASAP Rocky, Rakim Myers himself, allegedly pulled Rihanna into a room, sat her down, and said one sentence that supposedly detonated everything him, and the entire fashion music industrial complex had been building for a decade. This wasn't a breakup. This wasn't a scandal. This was something worse for the industry. Because now every label, every fashion house, every Grammy producer is reportedly scrambling in emergency calls. And the machine? The machine really thought it owned Rocky forever. That aged badly. Yo, before I get into this, hit that like button if you're already invested, smash subscribe, and turn that bell on. Melanin Scope Media is the only place breaking this down unfiltered. Now let's get into the receipts. Rakim Myers, the world knows him as ASAP Rocky, Pretty Flacco, reportedly sat down with Robin Rihanna Fenty inside their private New York residence and told her he was stepping back from the entire spotlight machine. According to insider chatter picked up across the culture this week of August 2026, the conversation happened after Rihanna returned home from back-to-back Fenty meetings. And I need y'all to sit with that image for a second. Not a press release. Not a stage sit-down with a friendly journalist. Not a notes app apology. A private conversation, in a private home, between two people who have spent the last half-decade becoming the most watched couple on the planet. If the reporting is accurate, and everything we're about to pull up suggests the energy is real, then one of the most visible men in music just told the most powerful woman in entertainment that is done being visible. The mainstream press really thought they were gonna keep spinning this as a rebrand. They weren't. And honestly, I get why they reached for that word. Rebrand is safe. Rebrand keeps the machine running. Rebrand means the album cycle continues, the covers keep printing, the carpets keep rolling. But every receipt we're about to lay on the table says this is something else entirely. This isn't a pivot. This isn't a rollout strategy. This is a man who spent over a year, maybe longer, quietly telling anyone who would actually listen that he was leaving, and an entire industry that heard him and chose not to believe him. Because here's the thing about Rocky that the gossip pages never understood. He's never been a liar. Loud? Yes. Flashy? Absolutely. But when this man talks, he means it. And for 12 straight months, in the biggest magazines on Earth, on the biggest radio shows in New York, on camera, on the record, he has been narrating this exit in plain language. The press just filed every single quote under relationship content and moved on. That was the mistake. That was the blind spot. Let's pull up the actual receipts and see what this man has been telegraphing for over a year. Alright, pull up. Let's go straight to the source material. The man's OWN words, on the record, over the last 12 months. No blogs. No sources close to the couple. No anonymous insiders. The man himself, and the woman herself, speaking directly into microphones. And I want you'll to notice something as we go through these, not just what was said, but when it was said, and how every single outlet that printed these quotes somehow missed what was actually being announced. First receipt. In his Harper's Bazaar sit-down published in 2026, Rocky said about Rihanna, "She is the most charming and genuine person on earth. She has changed a lot because she became a mother in that time span." When I read that, I was like, bro, this ain't a rap boyfriend quote. That's a man talking about the woman who rewired his whole nervous system. Some rappers really talk about their girl like she's a chain. Rocky talks about Rihanna like she's oxygen. That's the difference. But go deeper. Look at the second half of that quote, the part everybody skimmed past. She has changed a lot because she became a mother in that time span. He's not just complimenting her. He's testifying. He's standing on record saying, "I watched this woman transform in front of me, and it changed what I value." That's not romance language. That's prioritization language. That's a man telling a fashion magazine, the one place you're supposed to talk about fits and runways, that the most important thing in his life happens inside his house, not on a stage. And Harper's Bazaar printed it, framed it, put it next to beautiful photos, and the entire readership said, couple goals, and completely missed the resignation letter hiding inside the paragraph. Second receipt. Rocky's Billboard interview. "She really is a strong black woman, and she held me down even when I was at my lowest. There wasn't no other broad other than her." Bro said no other broad. Period. End of sentence. And the internet trolls still out here trying to sell breakup rumors every 3 weeks? That's the dumbest cope I've ever seen. You really thought you were gonna manifest a split? Man, you sound delusional. But lock in on the part that matters for this story. She held me down even when I was at my lowest. At his lowest. When was Rocky at his lowest? Think about the timeline. Think about what this man has walked through in the public eye. The legal battles, the losses, the delays, the 3 years of Where's the Album slander. And in the middle of all of it, the person holding the structure together wasn't a label executive, wasn't a manager, wasn't a publicist. It was the woman at home. So when the insiders say the August 2026 conversation happened after Rihanna came home from Fenty meetings, of course it was her he told first. She's the only stakeholder. She's the only board member. She's the only one whose vote counts. Billboard printed that quote as a love story. It was actually a chain of command document. Third receipt. Rocky sat with W Magazine and told Lynn Hirschberg, and I'm quoting the video the whole culture reposted, "Fatherhood has softened me, but good." When I heard that, I had to pause it. Because a rapper voluntarily saying he's softer? On camera? In a Chanel shirt? That's a man who don't care what the streets think anymore. He's moved on. And the trolls in the comments who keep begging Rocky to return to his old self? You all are pathetic. He evolved. Get over it. And let's be precise about what softened means in hip-hop economics, because the blogs won't say it out loud. In this industry, soft is supposed to be a commercial death sentence. The whole mythology of rap is built on edge, on danger, on hunger, on the idea that comfort kills creativity. Rocky looked directly into a W Magazine camera and said the softening was good. But good. 2 words. That's not a man asking permission to evolve. That's a man announcing the evolution already happened and the check cleared. Every commentator who heard that and kept predicting the old Rocky would come back for the album cycle was betting on a man who no longer existed. The 2011 version of Pretty Flacco is gone. Not retired, replaced. By a father. And fathers don't measure quarters by chart positions. Fourth receipt. Rocky on the Ebro Show talking Don't Be Dumb, the album that dropped January 16, 2026 through AWGE and Sony, where he broke down being a girl dad after Baby Rocky. He straight up said fatherhood made him way more emotional. When I saw that quote hit, I said out loud, this is a countdown. This is a man narrating his own exit in slow motion. The industry commentators trying to spin this as just promo talk really thought we couldn't read between the lines. So, please. And the Ebro setting matters, y'all. This wasn't some overseas press junket where artists run their script. This is New York radio. Home turf. The room where you can't fake it because everybody in the building has known you since the mixtape days. That's where he chose to say way more emotional. Not GQ. Not Vogue. On Ebro. Artists pick Ebro when they want the streets, the real streets, not the timeline, to hear something directly from the source. He wasn't promoting an album in that moment. He was issuing a status report on his soul. And the outlets that clipped it for engagement chopped it into a cute fatherhood soundbite and threw away the confession attached to it. Fifth receipt, and this is the one that hits hardest. Rihanna herself, in the Interview magazine sit-down with Mel Ottenberg, said this about how it all started. We've known each other for a long time. I've seen him in relationships. He's seen me in relationships. We've seen each other outside of that. Brew. That's not a fling. That's not a rebound. That's TWO people who took years to admit what the mothers and the aunties already knew. And every gossip blogger who spent a decade shipping Rihanna with someone else, you'll owe her a written apology. But here's why this quote is the keystone of the whole vault. Rihanna is telling you the relationship was built on witness. They watched each other's whole lives, the good relationships, the bad ones, the public messes, the private recoveries, before they ever touched each other romantically. That means when Rocky allegedly sat her down in August 2026 and said, I'm stepping back, he wasn't talking to a girlfriend of 3 years. He was talking to a woman who had been watching him navigate fame for over a decade, from the outside and the inside. There is nobody on earth more qualified to evaluate whether that decision was real. Nobody. Not a label, not a manager, not a fan. If SHE reportedly heard it and the household kept moving, dinners, Fenty meetings, school runs, Then whatever this step back is, it was not a panic move. It was a plan. Now that we got the quotes, let's connect the dots. Now check the sequencing. Because the mainstream media been playing this sudden narrative. Nah. This was years in motion. And when you lay the dates out on the table next to each other, the shock completely evaporates. This wasn't a plot twist. This was a slow reveal that the entire press corps slept through. That Billboard quote? Dropped as Rocky was already deep in Don't Be Dumb rollout, the album that had been delayed for nearly 3 full years before its January 2026 release. 3 years, y'all. Ain't nobody in modern rap holds an album that long unless they are wrestling with something bigger than music. Let me put that delay in industry perspective, because 3 years gets thrown around casually and it shouldn't. In the streaming era, the shelf life of a rap star is measured in months. Labels want an album a year. The algorithm forgets you in 6 weeks. Rocky let 3 years pass between projects while the internet called him finished, washed, a fashion mascot, Rihanna's +1. And he just absorbed it. No panic EP. No desperation features. No surprise drop to remind y'all. A man who needs the spotlight does not behave like that. A man who needs the spotlight is terrified of silence. Rocky treated silence like a luxury. That should have been clue number 1, 3 years before August 2026, that this man's relationship with fame had already changed. Baby Rocky, born September 13th, 2025. The couple's third child, first daughter, joining RZA and Riot. So do the math with me. Rocky finished mixing his album while his newborn daughter was under 3 months old. Then the album drops. Then he tours. Then Met Gala 2026 hits. And suddenly there's a viral tense moment between him and Rihanna on the carpet that Rocky had to publicly clarify was nothing. And people still didn't catch the pattern. The man was burning out in real time, and y'all were arguing about a 2-second Met Gala clip. Let's really do that math, because the schedule is brutal when you write it out. Third child born September 2025. Album finalizing in the same window, meaning studio sessions, mixing notes, sample clearances, rollout meetings, all while a newborn is in the house and 2 toddlers are running around. Album drops January 16th, 2026. Then the promotional machine, interviews, performances, SNL, the AWGE fashion show, the Met Gala. That's 9+ months of a newborn, 3 kids total, a partner running a billion-dollar empire, and the full weight of a major label album cycle. Any parent watching that schedule already knew how this movie ends. The burnout wasn't a possibility. It was a guarantee. And the press covering the Met Gala tension, like it was relationship drama, was staring at exhaustion and calling it conflict. 2 seconds of a tired man's face on a carpet became a week of headlines. That's the machine working exactly as designed, and exactly the machine he reportedly just told Rihanna he's leaving. That AWGE Fashion Week show in February 2026? Rihanna sat front and center, proud of her man per the New York Post. That's when I clocked it. She wasn't there as a girlfriend. She was there as a shield. She was absorbing the flashbulbs so he could focus on the work. That's the covenant y'all missed. And understand what that front row seat actually costs her, because it wasn't free. Rihanna doesn't attend events. Rihanna is the event. When she sits front row anywhere on earth, she brings 200 cameras with her. Cameras that then point at her outfit, her face, her reactions, while the actual designer gets to work in relative peace. At her own man show, she deployed that gravity deliberately. She knew exactly what her presence did to that room. The Post called it proud of her man. Cute. What it actually was, the most famous woman alive using her body as a flashbulb magnet so her partner's creative work could breathe. That's not a date night. That's a protection detail. And you don't run a protection detail for someone unless you know the environment is hostile to them. She knew. She's always known. That's the part that should tell you the August conversation wasn't a shock to her. She's been shielding him from this exact machine for years. Behind the scenes, Rocky has been quietly re-architecting AWGE for years, the creative agency he founded whose motto is literally never reveal what AWGE means. Bro built a whole company designed around anonymity, secrecy, and behind-the-curtain movement. And people were shocked he'd want to step off the front of the stage? Any smart analyst would have seen this coming. Rocky's advisors telegraphed it. The industry chose to ignore it. Sit with that motto for 1 second, because it's the whole thesis. Never reveal what AWGE means. He didn't just build a company. He built a company whose founding principle is that the most powerful moves are the ones nobody can see. Every artist who's ever wanted out of the spotlight had to build the exit first. Rocky's been building his for a decade, in plain sight, and the name of the company was literally the announcement. The cameras point at the stage, the power sits in the booth. He told y'all from day one which seat he preferred. The industry just assumed the flashy guy in the front row was the real him. The motto was right there the entire time. It was never a mystery. It was a mission statement. Now here's the part almost nobody is talking about. His oldest ASAP Mob brothers, ASAP Yams, are no longer here to walk this journey with him. Yams passed years ago. Rocky has been navigating fame without the very people who helped him build the aesthetic of it. That's a weight that don't show up in Grammy nominations. Any so-called insider who missed that context isn't really covering hip-hop. They are covering headlines. And I need y'all to understand how deep that cuts, because this is the context that never makes it into the entertainment blogs. ASAP Mob wasn't a label signing. It was a brotherhood. Kids from Harlem who built an entire movement off friendship before a single dollar showed up. Yams was the architect, the visionary, the one who saw what Rocky could become before Rocky did. And Yams has been gone since 2015, which means Rocky has spent his entire solo superstar era carrying a ghost. Every milestone, the albums, the fashion weeks, the Met Galas, the kids, happened without the brother who was supposed to be standing next to him for all of it. You think a man carrying that weight, raising 3 kids, watching the industry get faster and hungrier and more disposable every year, you think is clinging to fame? Fame is the thing that outlived his friends. Fame is the thing that kept the schedule while the people disappeared. When you understand that, the alleged step back stops looking like a surprise and starts looking like a grief process finally reaching its conclusion. The headlines will never print that. The headlines can't monetize grief. So they print tense Met Gala exchange instead. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Now check this out. Nobody's talking about the actual title of the album. Don't Be Dumb. Zoom into that. That's not just an album name. That's a message. A warning. Rocky literally titled his 4th studio project with a phrase he uses when giving young creators advice. Don't be dumb. Meaning what? Meaning, don't let the machine eat you. Don't chase the algorithm. Don't confuse noise for meaning. He was preaching his exit strategy inside the very album that was supposed to keep him famous. Any label exec who missed that subtext really doesn't understand the artist they signed. And think about who that advice was for. Don't be dumb. He said it to young creators. The next generation. The kids coming up behind him who think the game is streams and viral moments and 24/7 visibility. He titled his comeback album, the one he held for 3 years, the one the whole industry was starving for, after the advice you give someone you're trying to save. That's not marketing. Marketing would have called it something luxurious, something stylish, something that looks good on a billboard. He called it a warning. He put the thesis of his entire life philosophy on the front of the product and dared the industry to notice. They didn't. They reviewed the beats. They never once asked why the man named his biggest commercial moment after the sentence, "Don't be dumb." In hindsight, if this step back is real, that title reads less like advice and more like a signature on a goodbye letter. Now check the second layer. That Tim Burton album cover collaboration. Freeze frame it. Tim Burton, a director whose whole aesthetic is about outsiders, misfits, and characters who withdraw from mainstream society into their own dark, hand-drawn worlds. Rocky didn't pick cars. Didn't pick Murakami. Didn't pick a bright pop artist. He picked the king of "I'm building a world separate from yours." That collab choice? Symbolic. Deliberate. Any journalist who wrote about that cover without decoding it missed the entire thesis of the era. Let's run the full filmography, because the pattern is impossible to unsee once you see it. Edward Scissorhands, a gentle outsider who lives in a mansion apart from the town, watching society from a distance. Ed Wood, an artist the industry laughed at who kept creating on his own terms anyway. Beetlejuice, a world behind the world, invisible to the living, operating on its own rules. That is Tim Burton's entire career thesis. The real world is a performance, and the honest place is the hidden one. Rocky had access to every visual artist on the planet. Every hype name, every auction house darling, every Instagram famous illustrator. And he chose the man who has spent 40 years making films about people who leave. On the cover of the album titled Don't Be Dumb. Released 11 months before he allegedly told Rihanna he was stepping back. Yo, that's not an album rollout. That's a treasure map. And every critic who reviewed the cover as a quirky aesthetic choice walked straight past the confession. Third layer. Watch Rocky's tone shift across interviews from 2021 to 2026. In the 2021 GQ cover story, he was still loud, provocative, chest out about his fame. By 2026 on Ebro, softer voice, longer pauses, more laughter about the kids than the music. That's not a media train pivot. That's a man whose internal frequency has changed. And the opposition really thought they'd get the 2021 Rocky forever? Nah, that guy is gone, peacefully. And he ain't coming back. And I want to be careful here, because the blogs love to frame this as Rocky fell off or Rocky lost his hunger. Wrong diagnosis entirely. Watch the actual footage side by side. The 2021 version performs confidence, fast answers, big claims, the chest out, the energy of a man still proving something to a room. The 2026 version doesn't perform anything. The pauses are the tell. Media-trained celebrities fill silence. Silence is danger. Silence is where the interviewer traps you. Rocky sits in silence comfortably now. He lets questions hang. He smiles before he answers. That's not a man who lost his edge. That's a man who stopped needing the room to clap. There is no media trainer on oath who teaches that, because that's not technique, that's peace. And peace, in this industry, is the one thing they can't sell you, can't fake, and can't take back once you find it. He found it. The 2021 Rocky was a product. The 2026 Rocky is a person. The industry only knows how to cover products. Fourth forensic layer. The words Rocky keeps repeating across every interview: settled, held me down, the one, family, praying. Those aren't marketing words. Those are exit words. Any behavioral analyst worth their salt would tell you, when a public figure's vocabulary shifts from conquest language to sanctuary language, they are preparing to dissipate. And the mainstream commentators who kept treating Rocky like he was still in his peso era, you'll been analyzing a ghost of him. Go back and count it yourself. The receipts are public. Early career Rocky. Clothes, money, women, cities, winning. Conquest vocabulary. The language of accumulation. Now run the 2025 to 2026 transcripts. Settled. Held me down. The one, family, praying. Not one of those words sells a record. Not one of those words trends. Not one of those words fits on a sneaker box. Praying, y'all. When a Harlem rapper's press vocabulary starts sounding like a Sunday dinner blessing, the season has changed. And here's the forensic point nobody made. Conquest language is public language. It's aimed at the audience, the competition, the charts. Sanctuary language is private language. It's aimed inward, at the home, at the people whose names don't trend. When a public figure's vocabulary moves from the audience to the household, the audience has already been deprioritized. He didn't announce the exit. He started speaking it, one interview at a time, in front of millions of people who heard every word and understood none of them. Now let's see how the media covered this. This is the part where it stops being about Rocky and starts being about the machine. Because when you line up how every major outlet covered the exact same era, you don't see reporting. You see 5 different industries protecting 5 different revenue streams. Pitchfork framed Don't Be Dumb as flawed but sharp, a 6.8, hinting Rocky's still essential but complicated. But their framing missed the emotional undercurrent. They graded it like a rap album. It wasn't. It was a farewell album disguised as a rap album. And understand WHY Pitchfork has to grade it that way. Their entire model is built on the artist continuum, rankings, scores, trajectories. Where does this land in the catalog? An artist voluntarily exiting breaks that model. You can't score goodbye on a 10-point scale. So the 6.8 isn't a review of the music. It's the sound of a scoring system refusing to read the room. Flawed but sharp is what you write when the album is doing something your rubric has no column for. The flaws they heard might have been the point. A farewell album isn't supposed to be optimized. It's supposed to be honest. Honesty doesn't chart well on a decimal scale. Harper's Bazaar framed the era as Rocky praising Rihanna, a soft, glossy, romantic angle. But remember those exit words we mapped in Part C? Harper's saw the love, missed the countdown clock underneath it. And once again, follow the incentive. Harper's Bazaar sells aspiration. Romance sells. Beautiful man praises beautiful woman, moves magazines off newsstands and drives affiliate links to the clothes in the photo shoot. Beautiful man is quietly leaving the industry that advertises in our pages does not. That's not an accusation. That's just the business model. Every glosser profile is a transaction. Access for image. The subject gets a flattering portrait. The magazine gets a cover that sells. Nobody in that transaction is incentivized to print by the way this man is done. So the love story got printed and the countdown clock got cropped out of the frame. The quotes were all real. The context is what got edited. BBC ran with the Rihanna is back in the studio spin, treating Rocky's comments as an R9 update instead of what they really were, him repositioning her as the front-facing artist while he steps into the shadows. Brew. He wasn't giving y'all a music scoop. He was announcing a role swap. And every outlet ran the wrong headline. This one might be the most important misread of the entire year, and I need y'all to really sit with it. For 6 years, the world has demanded R9 from Rihanna. 6 years of Where's the Album? It is the single most requested piece of unreleased music on the planet. And when her partner, the person closest to her life, her process, her household schedule, speaks publicly about her being back in the studio, what is functionally doing is confirming that the Fentany's household has ONE front-facing artist again, and it ain't him. That's a handoff. That's a relay baton changing hands in public. The BBC heard album update, because the BBC needs the R9 story to stay alive. It's one of the most reliable traffic engines in music journalism. But the actual news was never that Rihanna was recording. The news was WHO was telling us, and what it implied about where he'd be standing when it drops. Behind her. Not beside her. Behind. People magazine spun the Met Gala moment as tense exchange. Rocky had to clarify it publicly. The framing there was reach adjacent. Some fans defending that clickbait narrative are the same people who thought Rihanna and Rocky broke up in 2023, in 2024, and in 2025. You'll been wrong every single time. At what point do you develop shame? And let's name the mechanism, because it's the same mechanism that's now distorting the step-back story. A celebrity couple walks a carpet. 2 seconds of footage, no audio, no context, 2 tired people managing cameras, gets clipped, slowed down, captioned, and fed to an outrage algorithm that pays by the engagement. Tense exchange is not a description. It's a product. It's manufactured drama inventory for a content economy that needs this couple to be in crisis to hit its weekly numbers. And notice, Rocky's clarification got a fraction of the traffic the original tense clip got. The correction never outruns the accusation. That's not a bug in the system. That is the system. And if you were a man already questioning whether the spotlight machine was worth it, watching your own exhausted face get repackaged as marriage drama in real time might be the exact moment the decision crystallized. The machine didn't just cover his burnout. It may have caused the exit it's now covering. And here's the rebuttal to the industry haters trying to spin this alleged step back as Rocky losing relevance. The man's album just dropped through AWGE as Sony to Pitchfork Best New Music territory. He headlined SNL and is headlining Governor's Ball 2026. His not losing relevance. His rejecting it. Big difference. The receipts don't lie. Because that is the tell that separates this from every washed-up narrative the trolls are cooking. Falling off looks like begging for a slot. Falling off looks like a flopped rollout and cancelled dates. Rocky's situation is the exact opposite. The demand is at an all-time high. Major label partnership. Prestige TV stage. A headline slot at one of the biggest festivals in his own city. The industry was offering him everything in 2026, and that's precisely when a step back becomes legible. Leaving when they are pushing you out is an L. Leaving when they are begging you to stay is a W. If this alleged conversation really happened in August 2026, it happened at the exact peak of his leverage, which means it wasn't a retreat. It was a refusal. And refusals at peak leverage are the most expensive kind of no in show business. That's why the machine is panicking. Not because it's fading. Because it's choosing. But here's what nobody is saying. Something about this whole conversation feels OFF to me, and it ain't about the couple. It's about US. Here's the angle mainstream won't touch. This isn't a love story. This is a hostile takeover of the celebrity industrial complex, and Rocky just fired the first shot from inside the building. Think about who actually loses when a top-tier rapper allegedly steps back at his peak. The label loses touring revenue. The magazines lose cover currency. The fashion houses lose their walking billboard. The award shows lose their ratings hook. The paparazzi lose their rent money. That is a massive ecosystem of parasites, and Rocky is the host they've been feeding on. Every one of those industries is reportedly scrambling because their contract with him was never written down but always assumed. That assumption, dead. And the executives sipping their emergency lattes right now are puppets realizing the strings just got cut. Every one of them thought they owned a piece of Pretty Flacco. Nah, Pretty Flacco owns himself. Always did. They just charged rent on borrowed time. And let's follow the money all the way down, because the parasite list doesn't stop at the obvious ones. There's a whole shadow economy built on any man's visibility. The fan accounts monetising his candids, the YouTube channels. Yes, channels like this one, farming his news cycle, the resale market pricing his outfits, the fashion week invites whose entire value is Rocky might attend, the radio shows booking him, the festival lineups using his name to sell early bird tickets, the brand deals structured around his face appearing a certain number of times per quarter. Do the math on that. One man decides he'd rather eat breakfast with his kids than do a photo call, and dozens of balance sheets wobble. That's how concentrated the celebrity economy is. That's the fragility nobody prices in. They built a skyline on one man's willingness to be watched, and the man just reportedly said the watching is over. The outrage you're seeing online isn't heartbreak. It's panic wearing heartbreak's clothes. Now zoom out further. This is a historical pattern, and Rocky is on the right side of it. Remember what happened when Jay-Z retired after the Black Album. The industry panicked. Remember what happened when Frank Ocean went dark after Blonde. The industry panicked. Remember what happened when Rihanna herself walked away for 6 years to build Fenty? The industry declared her dead 3 times, and she came back a billionaire. The pattern is clear. When the biggest stars take their power back, the machine loses its mind. The gatekeepers who are hating on Rocky's alleged step back are the same gatekeepers who bet against Rihanna's silence. You'll lost that bet. You're about to lose this one too. And notice what each of those exits produced, because the machine never includes the epilogue. Jay-Z's retirement became the most powerful second act in rap history. He came back not as an artist, but as an owner, and today his billionaire status comes from the leverage that exit created. Frank Ocean's silence turned Blonde into a permanent artifact. No interviews, no touring, no content machine. And the album's legend grew in the dark instead of decaying in the feed. And Rihanna, the woman in Rocky's own living room, is the masterclass. 6 years of she's finished, 6 years of she'll never come back, and she spent every one of those years building an empire that made her wealthier than her entire music career ever did. That's the blueprint sitting on their coffee table. Rocky doesn't need a consultant to design this exit. He sleeps next to the greatest exit strategist in entertainment history. The machine isn't just losing a rapper. It's up against a household that has already beaten this exact playbook, from the inside, at a bigger scale, with the whole world watching. Vegas would not take the industry's side of this bet. Culturally, this is generational. Rocky is 37. He's a father of 3. He's watching a whole new generation of TikTok rappers get chewed up in 18 months and spit out in 19. He sees the algorithm eating the culture. And his response is rebellion, quiet, deliberate, and unapologetic. Every young black man watching Rocky right now is getting a masterclass in what it looks like to define success on your OWN terms instead of on the industry spreadsheet. Meanwhile, the industry executives are old gods trying to keep the plantation model of celebrity alive. They are losing, and they know it. And the timing of the lesson is not an accident. Look at what the current model does to the kids coming up. The algorithm demands a new face every quarter. Teenagers go viral before they can legally sign their own contracts, get strip mined for 18 months of content, and get discarded before their second single. That is the environment Rocky is watching his own children grow up adjacent to. RZA is 4. Riot is 3. Rocky isn't even 1. He is raising 3 black kids in a culture that consumes black artists like inventory, and his alleged response is to publicly demonstrate the exit. To show, at the top of his voice, by using no voice at all, that the fame is a tool and not a life. You cannot buy that kind of lesson. You can only model it. And every young artist watching this play out, watching a man walk away from SNL stages and festival headliner money toward a kitchen table, is recalibrating what making it even means. That recalibration terrifies the old guard more than any flop ever could. A flop cost them an artist. A recalibration cost them the workforce. Psychologically, this is a masterclass in warfare against the machine. Rocky is playing 4-dimensional chess. He's using the very fame the industry gave him to elevate Rihanna's return, then using her platform to shield his exit, then using the AWGE agency to build silently in the shadows. Any label exec who thought Rocky was just a fashion rapper was underestimating a strategist. He's already 10 steps ahead. The industry is still on move 1. Map the sequence out like a heist movie, because that's structurally what it is. Step 1. Spend a decade building AWGE, an off-grid power base with a secrecy oath for a motto, so there's always a vehicle that doesn't depend on his face. Step 2. Hold the album 3 years, proving to himself and the market that silence doesn't kill him, it compounds him. Step 3. Drop the album. Headline the biggest stages. Re-establish peak value. You never negotiate an exit from weakness. Step 4. Publicly position Rihanna as a household front-facing artist. The BBC headline was the move, not the news. Step 5. Step back at maximum leverage, leaving every partner contractual whole, but culturally stranded. Each step looks random in isolation. Together, it's a single continuous operation executed over years. And the genius part? None of it required a lie. Every move was legal, public, and on the record. He hid the entire strategy inside press quotes, and the press transcribed the whole plan without ever reading it. And the authenticity angle. This is what separates Rocky from every other rapper trying to fake a grown man era. He didn't announce it in a press release. He didn't monetize the moment with a Netflix doc. He allegedly said it in a living room to the one person who mattered, and let the culture find out organically. That's real. Every rapper doing performative family man reels on IG right now is fake. Rocky is real. And the difference is going to be brutal to watch play out over the next 24 months. Because here's the stress test that's coming, and you should bookmark it. The industry's countermove to an authentic exit is a flood of imitation. Watch how many artists suddenly discover the importance of family in the next 2 press cycles. Watch how many rollouts add a soft-focused documentary about what really matters. Watch how many rappers start quoting scripture and holding babies on magazine covers. The machine cannot compete with authenticity, so it will attempt to manufacture it, and every manufactured copy will make the original more valuable. That's the trap Rocky set without even trying. His exit only works as a statement because he never sold it. The moment anyone sells their version of it, they prove they didn't mean it. The next 24 months are going to be an authenticity audit of the entire industry, and the receipts were laid out in Section 4 are the answer key. And that's the truth they won't tell you. Nah, this is about to get ugly for a lot of people who built their business models on Rocky staying visible forever. 3 pods from here. And I'm gonna walk you through each one, because whichever way this breaks, somebody's whole business plan is about to get shredded. Watch what happens over the next 6 months. The industry commentators who spent a decade calling Rocky just Rihanna's boyfriend are gonna realize they had it backwards the whole time. Rocky's gonna go quiet on Instagram. His verified posts will drop from weekly to monthly. Every tabloid that depended on Rocky sightings for clicks is gonna watch their traffic collapse. And the insider bloggers screaming for content will look desperate thirsting for scraps. Bro, your whole business model was leech-based. The host is leaving. Cry about it. And here's the cascading failure nobody's pricing in. Rocky's visibility was never just Rocky content. It was couple content. Rocky sightings meant Rihanna adjacency. Rocky fits meant fashion coverage. Rocky carpets meant viral moments that fed a week of content for 100 outlets. Pull him out of the frame and the whole supply chain seizes. The paparazzi economics alone are brutal. A Rocky Rihanna family candid is a 5-figure photo. No Rocky means fewer candidates, means fewer licensing fees, means agencies that staffed up for the Fentomire's beat are suddenly over capacity. Then the second-order effects. Fashion Week front rows with an empty seat where the couple used to sit. Met Gala coverage without its most reliable moment. Award shows pitching a duo that no longer walks carpets together. The machine didn't just lose a rapper. It lost its most dependable content couple. And there is no replacement on the bench. You cannot manufacture a decade of organic chemistry, 3 kids, and $1 billion love story on a deadline. The well is dry, and the people who drilled it are the ones left thirsty. Now if instead Rocky pivots to full behind-the-scenes mode, executive producing Rihanna's R9, designing under AWGE, and quietly co-signing new artists through his agency, that's when the real power move activates. Because a rapper who controls the culture without needing the microphone is a rapper who lives forever. Jay-Z did this. Diddy tried this, and we see how that went. Rocky is set up to do it cleaner than either of them. Every rapper still chasing streams while Rocky builds an empire in silence is gonna look corny by 2028. Watch. The receipts are coming. And the reason his version can go cleaner is structural, y'all. Jay-Z built the template but had to learn ownership in public, deal by deal, lawsuit by lawsuit. Diddy built the loudest version of the mogul playbook. And the lesson of the last few years is that visibility is now a liability at the executive level. The new model is invisible power. And that is exactly what AWGE was engineered for from day one. Remember the motto? Never reveal what AWGE means. He didn't build a brand. He built a vault. Imagine the R9 scenario specifically. If Rocky is in the studio architecture of the most anticipated album in music history, uncredited, unbothered, unpaid in credit but paid in equity of legacy, then the biggest cultural event of the decade runs through his hands while his face never appears in the credits. That's not retirement. That's ascension. That's graduating from the product to the producer of products. By 2028, the conversation won't be whatever happened to ASAP Rocky. It'll be why does everything good trace back to his agency? The rappers still fighting for playlist placement are playing checkers against a man who stopped playing on the board entirely and bought the table. The bigger consequence? This alleged step back is gonna crack the entire modern celebrity blueprint wide open. Watch other A-listers start copying the strategy. Watch the next generation of stars refuse to give the machine 24/7 access. Watch magazines struggle to book covers because the biggest names decide silence is the flex. And the outdated executives clinging to the old model, the ones still measuring success by red carpet appearances and Instagram followers, are gonna find themselves running a museum instead of a business. 5 years from now, industry historians are gonna point at this exact August 2026 moment as the day the celebrity industrial complex started dying. And the executives who dismissed Rocky as just a rapper are gonna look clueless in the archives. Because the math underneath the old model was already breaking before this. The social contract of modern fame, total access in exchange for relevance, only works while the stars believe access is the price of survival. But Rihanna already proved you can go silent for 6 years and return more valuable. Frank Ocean proved scarcity appreciates like art, not like inventory. And now if Rocky, at peak demand, with a fresh album and festival headlines, chooses silence too, that's 3 of the biggest names in black music demonstrating the same theorem in a row: access is optional, and the ones who withhold it win. The next generation is watching with calculators in hand. Why hand your life to an algorithm for a decade when the biggest earners in the game got there by refusing to? Once that lesson spreads, the entire talent pipeline shifts, and the executives still writing contracts built on guaranteed visibility will be holding paper nobody signs anymore. That's not a trend. That's a regime change. And regime changes don't announce themselves with press releases. They announce themselves exactly like this: a quiet conversation in a living room, and an industry that finds out lost. Meanwhile, Rihanna's about to become the most powerful woman in entertainment twice over, because she'll be running Fenty, launching R9, and holding the megaphone Rocky handed her. The doubters who kept saying Rihanna was washed for music are gonna eat every single one of their words. Publicly. With source. Think about what this household becomes in this scenario. A beauty and fashion empire already valued in the billions. The most anticipated album in a decade dropping into a market that has been starved for 6 years. And now, if the reports are real, the full combined spotlight of both careers focused on one person, because the other one voluntarily stepped out of the frame. That is a concentration of cultural power we have genuinely never seen before. Not Beyoncé level. Not J level. Something past that, because this time both halves of the empire are aligned on the same strategy from inside the same home. Every brand, every label, every platform that wants access to that cultural moment now has exactly one door to knock on. And the woman behind that door has spent 6 years proving she does not need to open it. The machine spent a decade calling her retired and him irrelevant. They are about to find out they were negotiating with the only two people in the building who never needed the machine at all. Whatever happens, one thing's clear. The industry already lost. Alright, y'all. Real talk. This is one of those culture moments that's gonna age like a fine wine. Everybody's sleeping on it right now is gonna be reposting this video in 6 months talking about she called it. So drop me a comment. Do you think Rocky is really stepping back, or is this the smartest 4D chess move a rapper has ever pulled? I'm reading every single reply. Smash that like if you're rocking with the analysis. Hit subscribe, turn the bell on, and stay locked to Melanin Media because we don't sugarcoat and we don't spin. We bring you the receipts the mainstream is scared to touch. And by the way, tomorrow we're dropping something wild about what Rihanna's team is really planning for R9 and why one specific label exec is losing sleep. You do not want to miss that. Love y'all. Stay dangerous.